Research in education can take several forms and have many applications, adapting to local contexts, to crises, to new challenges. It also needs to involve all stakeholders and rely more on young people.
In education, it is very, very difficult to know what works and what doesn't. There is no one magical solution about what to do and that will improve students' learning or students' well-being. There is a lot of different context, a lot of different way of doing things, and a lot of different criteria to assess if something works or doesn't. And research in education has tried to identify things that work or things that doesn't work, but it has been very difficult for researchers to identify something that works that can be then applied. And there is a lot of research that and if they achieve to show that something works, then translating these results into practice in schools is also very difficult. The second step is, once we identified a set of common challenges, for instance, identifying accompanying kids to become autonomous learners, or also accompanying kids to collaborate. Well, can be many challenges. Then, once we identify these common challenges, the next step is to identify what are actions that we put in place to address these challenges. For instance, to accompany kids to become autonomous learners, some teachers can put in place, let's say, mentoring between kids, or also other teachers. Some teachers could put in place mentoring between kids, but also could put in place self-assessment methods. They could put in place distance learning methods for kids to, or resources, places with resources for kids, for them to go and identify, or training kids to use Wikipedia, etc. And working in different contexts, in a high school, in a primary school. And what is quite interesting is that primary school teachers and high school teachers, they can identify common challenges. And also they can identify common actions they put in place.
It's important to scale up good experiments, but it hardly ever happens.
Well, sometimes it happens, but to scale up good experiments, you have to know, first of all, if it works or not. So that's why we need to rely on research. And when I say research, I mean academic research, but also participative and citizen research, because the people can tell us the impacts the experiments have on their lives.
And this is why I think replication of this model has been possible in other countries. Now I can talk about other parts. Let's say, for example, the country of Vietnam. We gave them technical assistance. Our small NGO gave them technical assistance through the World Bank. And Vietnam took the Colombian model, and they have implemented in the whole country, and the impact evaluation just came out, and it's very good. So this demonstrates that yes, things can be done.
One big step is to invite teachers to become further evaluators and more scientifically evaluators about what they are doing. So to do that, we invite teachers, in addition to share in a written way what they observe as a result of their actions, we invite them also to share following observation protocols that are shared across teachers, what they observe as a result of their action. We also include in the loop, or we are trying to include in the loop, researchers. As researchers have time to sit down to read theories about learning, to identify, to create frameworks about how learning happens, how to observe learning, or how teaching happens. Researchers could also have a very interesting point of view of what it is interesting to be observed in the classroom.
We published this research with the University of London. So we have a lot of research evidence behind Escuela Nueva. So once the World Bank selected it as one of the 3 innovations worldwide that had impacted a national policy, because Escuela is a national policy in Colombia at the moment. We designed it.
And from that, we create more and more local level innovation. So there's this virtuous cycle between kind of local innovation and global learning, rather than saying here is a one-size-fits-all model that we need to trial everywhere. Conditionality is so important to a strategy being successful. So how we learn, how we process that, how we try that again, how we adapt that, I think is more important to think about than necessarily scale for scale's sake.
Because pupils and students are innovators and researchers. This is why we have to link research to learning in all social interactions. Research should also become a systematic tool in decision-making processes.
Now with our society we speak a lot about fake news, disinformation, etc. It's really important the role of research but also of universities to be able to provide evidences and facts for whatever public and policy makers will decide on any type of a subject. And it's important that they're able to provide reliable source of information.
Accept your own wrongdoings and try to understand the situation of people in front of you in both cases. You need to really precisely assess the situation. So that's why we are doing long studies before engaging in a development project. Third, you need to change reality. I think that's key. You need evaluation, you need rendezvous, you need step after step, people understanding, accepting that things are moving forward.
As we are confronted with the pandemic and probably other crises in the future, we should collectively promote and share new kinds of knowledge, rethink the role of institutions, imagine new applications of research in society. Eventually, it is an opportunity to take better care of ourselves, others, and the planet.
When the crisis of corona pandemic happened, within a week or two, many of the universities, not only in Europe but in the whole world, just transformed, right? Like this. But actually, this kind of transformation that happened was desired far long time ago. This just showed us that it is possible for universities to be agile. It is possible for universities to be flexible. It is possible for universities to respond to the needs directly rather than go through. And I think in order to understand why it is important to hear to students is first it is important to say who are the students. So students are the ones for whom the university system is built, right? The university system, the higher education system is there in order to make sure that we provide students with opportunity to access higher education, to gain knowledge, and to either go on and work for the society, for the community, for the world of companies, or for the non-profit world, or we support them to go deeper into science and to create new knowledge and to discover new knowledge. So I think when we reflect in this manner, we understand that students are the primary beneficiaries of the higher education and the university world itself. And then from here we go to why is it important to listen to students and to actually acknowledge that they are one of the stakeholders who should have their voice and who should be equally part of different decisions and discussions that are being made about education. And why is it so? It's because in today's world, we as learners, as students, have a lot of information and knowledge available around us. And university is not the only place from where we get knowledge. So kind of like, I feel today university has lost this, privilege of being the only one source from where you can get the knowledge. However, just because you as a student have this wide variety of different information and knowledge that you can get, university is a place where you can make sure how valid is the information that you got from the other places, how relevant is it, how actual is it, and sometimes you can get information that is not information and knowledge that is not in your university, or you can have ideas that are not in place in your university, but you can bring them to the university if you feel that you can contribute to the life of your university in that manner. The main structure of university didn't change much. And the world around us has changed a lot. Technology, different sciences, both social sciences and natural sciences, have evolved a lot. And we need to bring that rapid development to the world of university as well. We need to make sure that university is evolving not only after the rest of the world is developing, but also sometimes even before, But we also need innovation that comes through just fresh minds, which are not still used to the system and can dare to bring innovation into the world of science and research. And I think, like, if we just try to understand what's the experience of students when it comes to research, and why is it important to make sure that students, even when they are studying on bachelor level or master, have at least some experience to research, because developing research skills just helps you to develop your understanding about world better, about like how different things function much better. That's why we say that if at the university level we actually recognize that students' voice is something that matters and is something that we need to take into account, we need to ensure that there are spaces where we are not just like asking for the student voice or giving the ownership, but where we are actually building the capacity of students to take this ownership, to understand that they have the right and they have the capacity to give input and to co-create learning and knowledge. And I'm very sure that today it is very much possible, but we just need to understand how to create these spaces that students feel that their voice is welcome, that their voice is needed, their voice is appreciated. But another thing that is especially also important for universities to provide students next to critical thinking is, I think, like I could say it as like social entrepreneurship, kind of to understand how to use your critical and reflective thinking to create a change. And so imagine if all these young people, if all these students who march and do protests and campaigns for a specific cause, demanding their, decision makers, politicians, etc., to take a political stance. Imagine if they all would also have an opportunity to just create a small impact in their community, like things like, I don't know, for example, things like domestic violence. They exist in like many communities, right? And we as young people, we see that very often, and we have eyes to see it. But the system that we grow up in just tells us, oh, like, yeah, like you see it, okay, now it's good, you critically understand that that's wrong, you understand that we need to talk about it, and we need to demand someone to do something. But why to not just like do it yourself? Why to not create an impact right on that moment where you see it happening, or where you know that in your community around you there is a lot of domestic violence happening? Why the people who are, for example, doing social studies or who are studying social sciences in a university, why wouldn't they, have a semester on doing like a community outreach on this topic, on doing a project with their teacher or with another NGO or with another group of students or with school kids who, you know, often experience domestic violence but have no idea with whom they can talk about it or what they can do about it. Why to not use the students who are really passionate about the topic, who are kind of aware of it and critical about it? Why to not give them opportunity to create an impact?
There is an opportunity because yes, we can now say that what we learn in school, in class, is not all of the activities of the students, and many universities and teachers maybe don't know this yet, and it is our work to make them conscious of this. And now they have it in front of them because they don't know what the students are doing all the day long, and when they are working and when they are doing another thing. And so maybe yes, it is time for universities to take this into account, but also we have to defend this place. We have to defend the fact that that students can make their own projects, because it will be an easy thing for universities and for governments to say now there are no students in the places, in the premises, and so we can only stop funding or creating or letting them creating new projects outside of class. Universities have to take more into account the skills and everything that students can learn outside of their premises, and so student involvement is very important in that. And I don't especially defend the involvement in associations or organizations. Of course, it is kind of the same thing to organize, to mobilize people, to create projects, and it is not really the result of the involvement that should be rewarded by new skills or new things, and things that should be stamped by the university. Indeed, I think that it is everything that people learn by themselves, by doing themselves, by creating themselves, that should be acknowledged and that should be recognized. Now, environment has taken a big place into societies, and so, for example, the way that everybody can have an opinion on this, and everybody knows that even if we disagree, and even if people are thinking that it doesn't exist, everybody knows that it is at the heart now of the society. So I think that we should have to create projects and to create something about learning, and maybe not saving the planet, because we are not at this moment, but also maybe having less impact on it. And so we have to think new process for learning, and also we have to think new process for being maybe more resilient with our planet. And so it is maybe now the most important debate that we can have, and we can't think one without thinking the other one. I think that if we have to create a place where youth participation is taken into account, and where we can learn them that they can have their own initiative and they can take their own decisions at the youngest age, it is cool, and we don't even have to make a lot of new things on top of it to achieve this. I think that any initiative is always good to take, but school has to be the place, and that is what also we defend, because we are a network of student organizations, but we also know that there is something before being a student, and there is something after. So we are working also on both sides. We could gather students and pupils and say them, what do you want to do for your local city, neighborhood, village, and if this had the means to be done, it could be great, because it is not by saying that involvement is cool and that engagement has to be done that we can create something in their minds. We have to show them that they have the power to change things first little thing there, but one at the time. We only have to open their minds, and their minds, but also the minds of their parents and of people that are teaching them at home and at school how to be a citizen in today's society.
Adolescents and young people have changed in a very important way in the last 10 years. And mostly they have changed in good. And we have to do that in the consultation because we have to discuss with them as they are, and not as we have the fantasy that they are. I explain to you. And there is a side effect too about this change, that the parents have not changed at the same speed. And so the gap between young people and their parents and the older generation become more and more important because they do not share completely the same culture. And of course, about that, there are the social networks, Facebook and Instagram, etc., which makes that, well, imagine, perhaps people do not realize that if you are on Facebook every day, if you post 50 messages every day on your page, most, but not all, most young people 50 times a day have to think in their mind, I am going to write that, how that will be received and perceived by people who will read that. This is a stimulation of what we call theory of mind. You have to think permanently how people receive what you say. And so it increases by a high level social cognition. And most young people are very at ease nowadays to engage in socialization, much more than their parents. And I see in my consultation, adolescents, they have to take care of their parents when they discuss with them. They have to say, okay, I am going to say that, okay, but in fact, they don't know me. So I will have to say that, because in this way, they are likely to understand what I want to say. The most important thing that you learn from young people, especially very young people, is that they are true and you are not. They know much better than us how the society will become. And second, they will have to live on a society where the question of climate, etc., will make change, and they will live in this society much more than us. So, because of this reason, we have to listen to them. Anyway, this is true, but on the other side, we have to remember that they expect a lot from us. We are doing studies at the moment to be sure of that, but I think we are quite confident, I am quite confident about the results at the moment. Young people suffer much less from the lockdown than older people.
What is a learning planet? How can everyone contribute?
The learning planet is already there. We just have to let live and thrive. A learning planet, in a nutshell, gathers people who want to debate, who reinvent collective decision processes all around the world, and who learn from each other to create a common and peaceful place through education. Again, our goal is to share. So I hope that everyone who will be watching our documentaries will feel involved and will want to talk to us about their own experiment and describe it on a specific website at the CRI Paris. This is In the Mood for Debate and Discussion.